Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new edition of Let's Talk About Education with Antonio Corrales. As you may know, I'm an educator, an entrepreneur, and a professor at the University of Houston, Clear Lake. My main goal is to introduce you to pioneers in the field of education, to let you know about topics that you may not be aware of, but you may be interested in. Today, we have the honor to have with us Nelda Billescas.
Hello, my name is Nelda Billescas. I'm the principal of Ollie Middle School in Alief ISD, and I'm excited to be here, Antonio. Thank you for including me.
Absolutely. Nelda is a seasoned educator and administrator and an expert in how to help middle school children to perform and give the best. She's in a urban school in a large school district. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Absolutely.
It's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun.
All right, Nelda, why don't we start by allowing you to introduce yourself to the audience and kind of letting them know about your career and how did you get to where you are right now?
Well, I've been blessed to be a part of the Alief ISD community, which is a school district just outside of Houston, and it's still Houston proper. But to get here, I came through various avenues. If I go all the way back to my upbringing, I'm from the Rio Grande Valley, which is McAllen, Texas, down in the south tip of Texas, and being a member of the majority in the valley gave me a lot of ideas about security and learning. And never realizing there were any differences. We were pretty sheltered in the valley. So coming to Houston, I ended up working in a wonderful school district on the east side of town, known as Deer Park Independent School District. Incredible school district, great facilities, wonderful administration, great leadership. And it was predominantly minority. I was a part of the minority in that district. But it was mostly upper middle class students and families. The community's amazing. So I was there for 18 years and learned a lot. And as I continued my studies, actually at the University of Houston, Clear Lake, I got my master's there. I ended up realizing that my work was already done. I needed to do something with the Title I schools. And so I ended up moving into Houston Independent School District for a year and a half, when I then ended up transferring over to Alief. And I've learned a lot from all of those settings, and it's brought me to this point where I feel like we're definitely doing some incredible things here at Ollie Middle School.
Can you, for the audience, for administrators or new administrators or aspiring administrators or teachers who may be looking at us right now and may not know, what do you mean by Title I school?
I'm talking about anybody who has children that are needing support systems for even just having nutrition. And the federal government provides funding for campuses that qualify to be, quote unquote, Title I. I've seen some schools that have anywhere in the neighborhood of 56% free and reduced lunch to schools like mine that are 92%. And so we actually have 80 students who do not qualify for that program, which is incredible when you think about me having 1,100 students in this building in 2 grade levels.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Now let me ask you this. You know, one of the things that I feel that you're remarkable and fantastic in the world of education is that you're in an urban school in a large school district, and within that context you have been able for the past years to allow your students to perform and to achieve great things. So I want you to kind of share with us what is your secret. You know, how do you become successful in that context, especially for our administrators looking out there, or those administrators who work in a rural schools in rural school districts who are totally different than the one that you have to work with. You know, how do you become successful in this context of an urban school in a large school district?
I think, first of all, you've got to have a vision. You've got to have a vision, and you've got to have a passion to make sure that vision takes place. My personal vision when I got to Ollie was, we're going to end the poverty cycle. That was it. And I knew that the way to do it was through education. We established our mission statement, which is Ollie Middle School will prepare students for college and career through social, emotional, and then academic growth. So we knew that in order to get to that point, you couldn't get there without loving on the kid and helping that kid change their paradigm shift.
So it's not about numbers all the time.
No, starting out, it's about quantitative piece, all the intangibles, and knowing all the research that's there behind how children learn. You go back to the brain research. Children cannot learn if their stress level is high. I mean, there are, in urban school settings, children are constantly concerned about how they're going to get their next meal, if they have a safe roof over their heads, what the community is like. I mean, if it's a dangerous setting, and my school happens to be in a very one of the toughest areas in the Houston area, yes. And even so, in spite of that, this school decided that we were going to make a change. We were going to make sure that every child had the best education every single day, and this campus was going to be the safest environment for them when they got here. And so it was a culture shift. We had to make that decision, and it was incrementally done. This is my 7th year.
So it wasn't one day to another.
No, and you need to understand that. You have that vision out there, and then what are you going to do to get there? You have to have a plan, and you have to have the right people to roll that plan out. When I first got here, a comment that came out of my mouth was, Ollie Middle School is going to be the magnet STEM school of the district. Well, that was quite a mouthful when you have kids that didn't even care, right? And it was hard to even get them here. And so I ruffled a lot of feathers, and I'm not going to be here because I'm an ELAR teacher, and you're not going to tell me how, you're not going to dictate how I teach through science. And I was like, it's not even about that. It's about helping kids think critically. And so giving children a voice, giving children opportunities to think critically, giving children opportunities to be creative, and giving kids an opportunity to collaborate was huge. So we were getting out of, the first thing I encourage you to do, I challenge you to do, is to get out of cemetery rows. Put kids in situations where they can collaborate and really empower them and validate their thinking and their communication, give them feedback with that. But you got to train teachers in that, and it starts with release. And I think one of the things that we've done poorly in preparing teachers is how to set that up and how to create a structured setting, especially when you're getting new teachers in. And in urban schools and Title I schools, you typically get young teachers, right? Years 1 to 3, and at that point, they're struggling. They're just trying to figure out how to get it done. Well, I'm happy to say that through cultural change, you can feel it. And, you got teachers wanting to be here. You got teachers wanting to stay here. Kids are working. We're not 100% done, don't get me wrong, by any stretch of the imagination, but we're very proud of the work we've done. And our kids understand that we love them, and we're going to support them, and we're going to help them grow. We're gap closers. And this year we were distinguished to be one of the top 25% of the schools that closed student achievement gaps.
That is fantastic.
Yes.
But one of the things that fascinates me is what you're talking about, those emotional support systems that you put in place. And one aspect that you mentioned is, okay, we train teachers, we hire smart, teachers that are aligned with that vision and those goals. Can you talk about the support systems that you put in place for parents and students to being able to, achieve their potential? Because one of the challenges that you hear over and over again in urban settings is that, okay, parents typically are involved, parents are disengaged, or they have too many jobs to being able to support their kids, and then the students reflect on that reality, basically saying, well, my parents don't care, I don't really care much, and I'm here because eventually I want to get a job. Or some of our students ended up working while they're studying because they need to support their family. So how do you set that shift in their mentality in order to get aligned with your vision?
Well, it started out with going back and thinking about my grandmother. She went to the 3rd grade, and I feel like I learned more from that woman than I learned from any professor that I've ever had. Simply because I understood that you have to have a passion for your child, right? And I didn't want her to experience, or my parents to experience, what she experienced with her children that were going into this affluent elementary school. I wanted my parents to feel valued, and I didn't want my parents to turn away because they didn't speak English or whatever. They weren't speaking English. I wanted them to be welcomed. And one of the things that ALEAF has done an amazing job at is they have communities and schools here, and they also have a family center. And we've been recognized as a national family friendly school, and I'm really proud of that. and starting from the top down. If the principal meets the parents, and you don't have, I mean, I'm as blue as they get. That means I'm all about heart.
Exactly.
I hug them when they walk in the door, and I thank them, and I keep reminding them every single day, hey, thank you so much for trusting your kids. Thank you for coming today. We're here because of you, and we're here for you. What do you need? So constantly asking them for input instead of throwing, this is what you need, this is what you have to do, why aren't you this, why aren't you that? It's a whole different shift on how we engage parents. As a matter of fact, my first year here, we went to the Houston Hispanic Forum Education Day. My first year. This was 7 years ago, and it was myself and another AP, and maybe one parent. We had 70 participants with us this last weekend, and I'm really proud of it.
Wow.
And it's about just continuing to stay with that vision and explain to the parents what the vision is, explain to the parents what the research is, and the research states if you are engaged in your child's education, there's an 80% chance that they're going to be successful. Well, we understand, looking at our data, we do have surveys, climate surveys, and we look at that, and yes, the survey will say 70% of the parents are like, well, I don't want to get involved.
How often do you measure?
That's annual. That's a district, and I'm glad that they do that because that gives us an opportunity to go back and revisit and set our focus and what are our plans for the following year. But we look at that and we wonder, what is it? So what we do now is we continue to try to get daily information. So when you walked in, I don't know if you noticed the laptop on the table right there on the counter, for parents to answer 3 questions: were you received? Were you welcomed appropriately? In a kind and respectful manner. Were you addressed immediately, and was your concern resolved? So that's feedback for us, and we've been at 100% since we started. That's good. And so we constantly want information from parents. We constantly want them to be there. My parent coffees, and the district has, ALEAF has really pushed having parental engagement, and so I meet with my parents once a month, the first Wednesday of every month, and I changed the whole way that I look at meeting with them. I visit with them and I talk to them about how they are getting involved about getting their kids to college. And so we start talking about GPA. We start looking about report cards. We start looking at camps. We start talking about opportunities for them for AP coursework and dual credit. We're talking about that now, and how to save money and scholarships and FAFSA, the whole thing. If you don't have parents understanding, they're going to stay in a shell. In other words, you freeze by it's that whole putting your head in the sand, burying your head in the sand.
Yeah.
If you don't know, then you don't know where to go. You're frozen.
Now, when you talk about for our viewers, when you talk about community in schools, is that a program? Is that an approach? What is it?
It's an amazing program that happens to be in a lot of the schools here in Houston. I know it's a nationwide program. It's a federally funded program, not through us. They're literally housed in the city. I've got 2 amazing caseworkers, Nelda Lopez and Derek Bryant, and they are supposed to work with about 100 kids. I mean, just shy of 10% of our student population. They help all of our kids. I just told you, we're 92% free and reduced. I mean, we've got clothing there that we can loan kids to use. We've got supplies there. We get donations.
It's like a support system for students who lack of resources. Absolutely.
And the beautiful thing is that they track their data to see how the kids are promoted. They work with them. They counsel them. They mentor them. They look at their grades. They talk with the parents. They're like a mediator, the intermediary between parents, school, and it's beautiful. They advocate for them.
Can anybody apply for that program?
Parents have called and they've asked, and we don't turn anyone away.
Okay, and what about the one of the other topics that administrators tend to struggle when they get to an urban school is the participation in the PTA meetings and parental involvement. So how do you increase that? How do you make them more involved in activities or initiatives that you put in place?
Well, I think one of the biggest fallacies is that our society has is, once my kid's grown, they don't need me anymore, right? Mom, no. You start to notice the kid doesn't even kiss you anymore or hug you. It's that I'm going to let my child start to get some independence.
In nationwide, you can see how the parental involvement activities start decreasing once they get into secondary. Okay?
And so I've told the parents, that's a lie. They need you, number one. But what I need from the parents is, what I tell them is, I need you to understand they don't just need you, but they also need you to challenge them. Like, no, mijito, you don't need to take that class. Let me take you out. It's too hard. No, you make sure they're taking that class that's hard because life is difficult. You need to teach your child grit. You need to teach your child how to problem solve. So we constantly create settings. We don't have a PTA here, but what we do have, we have our family center.
Okay.
We also have opportunities for them. We do report card pickup night. We have 2 open houses. We do specialized events that, STEM opportunities. As a matter of fact, please, those of you, you heard me say we want to be the STEM magnet school of the district. Come see us March the 6th. We're going to have an incredible a STEM showcase with our kids that are in STEM, and then also kids that are in classes that are just barely picking that up. So come see what we're doing. We're constantly inviting parents, and we're teaching them how to prepare for what's coming for their children.
Well, one of the things I think that the key components in what you're mentioning in all these is also you make them feel welcome.
Absolutely.
You make them feel part of the educational community, and I think that make a big difference. What about discipline, though? Because you and I know that middle schools are going through changes, hormonal changes, and you see nationwide the office referrals, especially in 7th grade, are the highest across the nation. And so, how do you approach a proactive school management system to address discipline and at the same time have the support from parents?
Well, one of the things that we did, we shifted. We realized, okay, if we have all these kids that are not on our campus and they're not learning, of course our data is going to not look appropriate, right? These kids aren't learning. They're not with us. We're not able to close those gaps.
Right.
So one of the things that we've done when working with our district accountability people is we've come up with an academic goal and a discipline goal. And one of our goals was to keep kids on campus, but not without the work. And so my APs have done an incredible amount of work in their goal for this year was positive interactions. Remember, our mission is social, emotional, then the academic, right? So we're always looking for a 3-to-1 ratio of positive to negative interactions, and negative interactions are corrective. You have to correct kids, but if all they're hearing is, Nelda, sit down, Nelda, be quiet, Nelda, get your paper out, there's no relationship being built. And our district is, their foundation is, you can see that poster right there. It says meaningful relationships and meaningful work. You won't get there unless you have that. So I'm proud to say that our discipline has gone from, literally you've seen a shift. It's incredible. The feel in this building is incredible. So it's possible. It's doable. And I know I'm not the only one that's done it in this nation. So it's really about being proactive. Find people, not only, I'm not talking about your leadership, I'm talking about everybody from custodial staff all the way up. Find people that are smart, but more than that have heart. Because if they care about kids, you can teach them all the other stuff.
Correct. So having a positive
positive interactions.
Now, what about, and that helps with bullying too, by the way,
Yes.
which is a big deal, nowadays in the nation. The other thing, and finally, I want us to get to the meat of your success, which is the academic part. And I know we could be talking for hours. We're going to talk about STEM in a little bit, but I want you to, in a summarized way, what are the key factors for your success or for your student success academically in this context, in your school? Because you have been remarkably consistent within the years, allowing your students to perform academically. If you could, pinpoint key factors for your teachers and your student success in the classroom, in reading, science, writing, math. What are those?
I think if you go back and you look, if you break it down by discipline, you're looking at everything in isolation. It was truly a cultural shift that had to happen in the building. And it started with, let the kids think. Like, let the children think. If we only look at one way of solving a problem, they're only looking through one lens. And if you don't happen to have that same lens that teacher has, you didn't get it. And it took a lot. That was a paradigm shift that my teachers had to go through. And again, you think about when I first got here, the teachers that were here were 3 to less, to 1 year of experience. So being able to have them learn how to have communication, that's PLCs were really popping, and teachers were having to get out of their comfort zone. One of the things that we push here is failure is an option, not because of effort, but because you tried something different.
Correct.
And if
That's
the teachers,
that's really smart.
it is. It's incredible. It was exactly the out of the box concept that we needed. We needed to validate our teachers. Hey, I really like that idea. I like that you're putting yourself out there. You're a risk taker. Because that then shifted to the kids. Hey, I really like what you're doing there. You're not there yet.
So the teacher becoming more a facilitator than a protagonist.
Yes.
In the entire equation.
Yes, exactly. And so the district has pushed, A-Leaf is incredible. They've got great PD. But it's not just about the PD. It's actually putting into action. And
follow
so,
up.
yeah, and they focused on the gradual release method. And one of the things that I needed to make sure that we included, there was a lot. It's all under the same umbrella, though. If you look at it, if you look at the lesson cycle and everything that we're doing, we're focused on language. We follow the SIOP model, Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol. We utilize gradual release, and we make sure that our kids have an opportunity to use the STEM concepts, which is collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. If you've got the 4 C's in there, you've got this whole model, the kids feel empowered. They know that they've got something to offer. Instead of, oh, I got that wrong again. It's constantly giving the kid validation. One of the things, I sat in here with a young man one afternoon, and he was about 6'2", 8th grader. And I was like, Mijo, what's going on? And he was like, he just started crying. And to see a young man that size cry, he said, I am so tired of people telling me that I can't, that they don't recognize what I can. And I thought, is somebody here saying that? I mean, that was the first thing. I was like, he said, no. He goes, this was before. He goes, but nobody recognizes that. I said, we do see that you've improved. And we know you can. And we talk to your parents. But I think validation is a key. And, I can go back to myself. Any of us will sit there and tell you they remember those things. And then I tell my teachers, yeah, sticks and stones really do break your bones. These words are the ones those bones will heal. But the words, those stay with you. You can either use them as a launching pad for success, like, hey, I'm going to prove them wrong, or you're going to stay down. And so teaching teachers how to be respectful and have appropriate discourse with children and validate them is huge. Again, the social and emotional piece is by far the most critical. Then you get the academic.
And that's fantastic because all that can be trickled down to any core subject. And I'm sure that you utilize your faculty meetings and every time that you be able to have dialogue with your staff to talk about these things, especially 7 years ago when you arrived to the position. So it could have been hard. I want us to now shift to a topic that I know you're really passionate about it, and me too, which is STEM education. And for our viewers out there, we know that within the next 10 years, most of the jobs that our students are going to be exposed are in the STEM field. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We have 80% of those jobs are going to males currently. So we have some big gender gaps that we need to start closing. So I want you to talk to the audience about this revolutionary idea that you had to become at that particular point somehow the functional school in an urban setting in a large school district into a STEM magnet school. Why are you so passionate about STEM education, number one, and how do you pull that off? How do you make this campus a STEM magnet school?
Well, I have a passion for science personally, but more than that, when you look at what STEM has to offer, it's hands-on. It makes you think, and it makes you start to pull out your authentic genius. I mean, every one of us is gifted in a certain way. You and I have different gifts that we have to share. And it was a matter of helping our kids learn. I mean, I had to come in with this concept of how can I help kids learn science and math, mostly math, in a way they don't even realize they're learning. And it was through STEM. So little by little, I started to input more and more elective coursework in there to get it started. I mean, I can go back to my first year, and I had a young man that year that was in our first year robotics course. And I said, Mijo, what are you going to do for a career? Oh, no, Ms. Billescas, I'm gonna have a lawn business. I'm going to take over my dad's lawn business. And I said, wow. I said, that's great. I said, that's good, Mijo. I'm glad that you have that. And I wanted to see what was going to happen. He ended up being a part of TAME, which is it's a program for minorities in engineering.
Okay.
And I wanted to talk to him at the end of the year, so they had a little celebration. And literally, I think I had 4 kids, 1 girl and 3 boys. And when I talked to him, I said, congratulations, that was a great year. He goes, you know what, Miss Billescas? I said, what, mijo? He says, I'm going to be a mechanical engineer. That was it. I just wanted to provide. It was perfect. It was exactly what I needed to hear to continue to move my vision. And it was exposure and experience. Kids are only going to do what they have been exposed to. Our kids here, they may struggle with language, but they know math. And I can now start to give them an idea and give them some pathways where they can utilize that math. The language is getting better, a lot better, and I'm proud. They're reading, and they're reading with purpose. Everything that we do in STEM is we try to give them something that's relevant, some way that they have to problem solve, make connections, even interdisciplinary connections. They have ways to celebrate these problem solving strategies through projects or problem-based questions that they have in their coursework.
So talk to our our viewers with specifics in regards to how do you implement this system? How does a day look, a regular day looks like, with STEM education in the middle of it, when you compare it with a regular school who have no STEM. So you have blocks that they do STEM, or the teachers incorporate STEM within their lesson planning every day. How does it look like?
So here's the beauty of it. When I first got here, I told you that I ruffled some feathers. I mean, there were some people that left, and they needed to because they didn't understand. They weren't willing to go outside of their comfort zone, and I needed people to be risk takers. And what STEM is, it isn't telling you that you can't teach math. You're teaching math. I expect you to teach the curriculum. But what happens is what you've done is you've layered ways for them to think about the math in a relevant way. That's it. That's all STEM is. And so it's not taking anything away from a teacher, it's enhancing it. They become a facilitator because they're releasing the learning to the kids. Kids are able to show you that they know it instead of, okay, I finished all those 25 same problems, blah, blah, blah. No, they're actually making it relevant, and they're showing you, man, they can utilize it. They can apply it in this amazing way. They blow our minds every day. They're always doing something that makes us proud that we took that chance to change what it looks like. So school looks the same. I mean, literally, we've had an academy. The first time we started, we rolled out with a 7th grade class. They went on to 8th grade. This is our 3rd year. So this is our 2nd year with 8th grade STEM and 3rd year with 7th grade STEM. Next year, our vision is to roll it out school-wide. And the way we're going to do that is teachers are going to be incorporating problem-based learning in all of their coursework. And they're able to do at least one project, year 1. We're not mandating it because we understand there's still going to be some training that has to happen because STEM truly is releasing the learning to the kids and using their own background information. And if they don't have it, they have to research it.
Is it sometimes hard for teachers to give away that power or that comfort zone of feeling in control of the class? It's kind of a mentality, right?
It's funny that you mentioned control. Aren't we always all trying to control what our life is supposed to be? Yeah. If we just get out of the way and let life happen, it happens beautifully. And once teachers realize they can release control, all of a sudden the work gets really simple and they get to see what's happening. They're not exhausted, the kids are. It's incredible. It's supposed to be that way. And I mean, we're preparing our kids through a STEM setting in a regular classroom for what's going to be in the real world, right? Yeah. The boss is there. The boss provides information. Here's what the plan's going to be. You all execute. Well, you got to come up with the best ideas, right? The boss doesn't always have the best ideas. Trust me, you and I are the boss, right? Yeah. You got to build up your people. Yeah. They're the ones that make the corporation and the building run. And your teachers here at Ollie, my teachers are incredible. I praise them for the work that they've done. I've got an incredible STEM facilitator. She's she makes sure that she's training the teachers up, coaching up with their own problem-based learning so that they recognize, hey, that was great, I'm going to use that idea. They're presenting at the state level right now. Districts are coming in to see what we're doing, and we're wide open. When we started STEM, everybody was like, slow down, take it easy, don't break anything. I'm like, go forward, I don't care, let's break it, it can be fixed, let's go. And that's what it is. It's not being afraid to take a chance and not being afraid to realize that every child can learn, but they're going to learn at the level they can. And here's the scary thing, and I want you to hear me, that some of our kids that aren't doing anything right now are going to be our bosses one day because we've got to challenge them to want to do what engages them, right?
Correct. That is fantastic. Now, before we close it up, I want to ask you one thing before we go to the final question. How's your relation with central office in this context? Because one of these other things that a lot of our viewers and new administrators or administrators who work in a rural setting, wonder about the relation of school principals with central office in a large school district context. How do you keep a successful relation with central office when you have such a big district, which is important for not only for the success of your children but also for your job?
Right.
How do you do it?
Well, I mentioned that my first job was in Deer Park. It was a single high school. Mm-hmm. And then I moved to HISD, which is decentralized. It was so large. I loved it, but I didn't feel comfortable. I was comfortable in a centralized setting. So when I got to A-Leaf, while it does have 3 comprehensive high schools and 2 schools of choice, I liked the setting. I liked having somebody that I could have conversations with and were available to me and would hug my neck and knew my name, right?
Correct.
And would support me and also be able to have the discussions that needed to happen. It's great. It's set up. We have area superintendents that are available there to continue to have just discourse and knowing that you have that person there that, hey, I just want to throw something around, want to see what your thoughts are. And have accountability people that are there, like, have you thought about this? I mean, there's different layers that are there. They're support systems.
Support, yeah.
Absolutely support systems. So you're not out there on an island by yourself. So
yeah, because in a rural setting, a lot of people have to wear
Yes.
different hats. One person. I guess in the urban setting, you have different people for different positions.
Well, the beauty of the discourse and networking is that you don't have to be in front of somebody. You can pick up a phone, you can Skype, you can do all these things, to work with people. You have a choice if you want to put on all those different hats and look in the mirror all day long, or put on all those hats and change the way they're on your head because you've seen or heard something, you've reached out to somebody, you've made yourself vulnerable enough to say, hey, look, I need some help.
All right.
Look, you've got to, as a leader, that's another thing I'm going to tell you right now. If you think that you've got it all figured out, you don't. And you're holding your school back. So ask for help, network, and by God, listen. Listen.
Before we close it up, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your book, because I know you're an author like I am, and I admire you so much for that. And so I want you to, talk about your book. What is the book about, and why do you decide to write that book?
Thank you for that opportunity. I started my book, Finding the Right Side of Heaven. I started writing it in 2004, incidentally. I didn't finish the book until 2017, and the book was put in my heart to write. I think there's a book in everyone. Everybody has a book that they can write, but I don't know if I've shared with you, Antonio, but I'm dyslexic, and so for me, I was holding back a lot because of fear of judgment and being exposed that way. Now I realize that's part of who I am, and the fact that I can use that with my kids and community and leaders. It's important to show and be vulnerable. And this book is about overcoming adversity. It's about friendship. It's about love. It's about parenting. It's about counseling in schools. It's about teaching in schools. It ultimately is about love. And it's a quick read. I'm very proud of the work. It addresses social justice issues that need to be addressed because, look, our jobs are not clean. The world is not black and white. We're in the gray. And when we get to the point where we think it's either this way or that way, that's where we lose. We stop having communication. We've got students in our buildings and in our homes that are suffering because we want to stay in those areas and keep those blinders on. So this book is really incredible for parents and incredible for educators to be open to what's happening outside.
What's the name of the book again?
Finding the Right Side of Heaven. And it's based on relationships within a school setting. Like, it starts out with kids, but then it's everything that happens, like the 6 degrees of separation of everything that happens around, and how all these relationships and all these people end up coming together around a tragedy that happens. And there's a lot about cultural, some culture in there, the Latino culture that's in there as well.
Where can the viewers buy the book?
Finding the Right Side of Heaven by Nelda Billescas can be found on Amazon. It can be found at Outskirts Press, which is where I self-published. It can be found on Apple, and it can be also found at Barnes & Noble. So you can find it 4 different ways, and I encourage you to read it. It's a quick read, but it's a powerful read.
Well, I want to thank you one more time, Nelda, for being with us today. Folks out there, remember that we have these and many other videos and interviews at the Antonio Corrales YouTube channel. Let's talk about education with Antonio Corrales and StarlingEvaluationAssessment.com. Please help somebody today, and see you next time.
Thank you, and feel free to reach out to Ollie, #OllieImpact.
Absolutely.